Hello everyone and welcome to the Eddie Proudfoot podcast. Today on our 18th episode, we are going to be talking about components and duration with regards to spells in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. So let's get started. In the last episode, we talked about these two aspects of spells as well as the cast time and the range. The reason we're coming back to components and duration is because there's two nuances that we're going to discuss today with regards to the material components and something called concentration when we talk about duration. First, we're going to look at components. Material components are always written out in parentheses next to the M in that section of the spell description, and it'll say exactly what items you need to have on hand. And these can be really odd, peculiar items like a frog's leg, a vial of sand, some holy water, stuff like that. Now, the thing is, we don't actually need these materials. There's two rules when it comes to the material components. You can either carry around a component pouch, which is said to have the materials you need in it. Sometimes a DM will say, well, do you actually have that? We need to go to the store and make sure we get these items. So that can be a whole little side venture in and of itself. However, a lot of players go for the second option, which is to have a spellcasting focus, or sometimes just simply called a focus. Now, this replaces any material components you might need to have. So great, why do we need to worry about material components? Well, I'll tell you why. That's because sometimes you need the material components. How do we know if you need the material components? Well, it'll have a gold cost after the description. So it'll say whatever the thing is, and it's worth however many gold coins. So sometimes it's like 25 gold coins, sometimes it's 100, sometimes it's 1,000, sometimes it's 5,000. It can be very expensive depending on how good the spell actually is. Now, if that is in the description of the materials, you need to have that component, plus your focus or your component pouch, whichever one you decided to go with. So that's it. That's the nuance. Well, one more little thing to pay attention to. Sometimes it does have a gold cost, and then afterwards it'll be a comma and say which the spell consumes. Meaning, it's gone. After you cast the spell, that gold cost item you were coveting so preciously, it's gone. You need another one in order to cast the spell again. And that is a way D&D balances some of these really powerful spells, is by making you consume high cost items in order to cast them. Okay, so that is the nuance when it comes to spellcasting. Pay attention to the material components. Sometimes you'll actually need to have items on hand to cast some spells. Now let's talk about duration. So first off, what is duration? Well, duration is how long our spells last. So that can be anywhere from instantaneous till forever, depending on what the spell says. Now, there is this second class of duration. Some spells just say how long they last, and that's it. And then some spells will say concentration, comma, up to blank number of minutes. The key word here is concentration. Concentration spells are a special type of spell that means in order for the effect to continue to happen, you need to actively concentrate on the effect, on the spell. Now, this has two profound effects for spellcasters. The first being that you can only concentrate on one spell at a time. So let's say you cast the spell Call Lightning, which has a concentration time of up to 10 minutes. You can also cast things like Mage Armor, which is a spell that does not require concentration and lasts for 8 hours. So notice the duration and concentration are not necessarily one-to-one. So you can have spells that last a long time that do not require concentration, and spells that last for a much shorter period of time, like Call Lightning, which can only last for up to 10 minutes, depending on how long you hold concentration. If you try and cast a second concentration spell while concentrating on the first spell will be dispelled and stop immediately, and then the next spell will take place. If you have a nice DM, they might remind you that you are concentrating on a spell and ask, hey, do you really want to cast that spell because it's going to stop this effect? And then maybe you might change up your strategy with the new information. So just keep that in mind. You can only concentrate on one spell at a time. The second thing with concentration is if you're hit for damage while concentrating on a spell, you have to roll what's called a concentration save. This is a constitution-based saving throw, so you roll a d20, add the appropriate modifiers, and the number you are trying to meet or beat is either 10 or half the damage rounded down, whichever number is higher. So if you're getting hit for 21 or less damage, the save is 10. Once you hit 22, then it bumps up to 11, and then every second step it's going to keep going up because we always round down in D&D unless specified otherwise. So that is concentration, and this pretty much sums up everything I wanted to talk about today. So thank you so much for listening to the Eddie Proudfoot podcast. If you enjoyed it, please follow us on Instagram, Spotify, or Twitter. And as always, may the gods have mercy on your soul.